everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Jess, and today I want to be talking about how to start seeds inside. And this is going to apply for flowers and vegetables and different things like that. I really want this video to kind of be a good start if you've never grown seeds from indoors before, and you're new to gardening and you kind of just want to know all of the basics for how to do this process. And do it well and successful the first time. So if you have any questions on how to grow a vegetable garden, please put them down below, because I'm going to be trying to make a whole series on how to start a vegetable garden this year, because I know so many people are curious and are wanting to go that route, but there's so much information out there, and I would love to share my expertise with you and kind of hopefully make it as easy for you as possible to get into this really exciting and fun hobby. So the first thing that you're going to really want to know before you start your seeds is what your very last frost date is. And so for me, I live in South Dakota. My last frost date is about May 25th. And really, I tend to not transplant my seedlings that I started inside outdoors until about after the first week of June, just because we've been bit in the past and have had kind of a late frost, and then you lose your seedlings. So you never want to plant your seedlings that you started outside before your last frost date, especially just because frost will kill a lot of these plants, such as tomatoes, or even if they don't kill them, they might stunt them, and then you're not going to get as good of a yield. So it's better off to wait until after that last frost date before planting them, and kind of err on that side of caution. So the other reason why you'll want to know your last frost date is a lot of peppers and tomatoes and different flowers and things like that will need to be planted a certain time before your last frost date. And it will always tell you on the back of the package, or at least it should, whether you can start indoors. Like these ones both say 6 to 10 weeks before the last frost, whereas there are other plants that you don't need to start inside. So for me, I need to start all of my tomatoes and peppers inside about that 8-week mark, if I'm going to want to plant them and actually get tomatoes out of my plants, versus maybe zucchini I can plant directly outside and they mature fast enough to give me a good yield during that growing season. So I'm not going to be planting any zucchinis up today, mainly peppers and tomatoes. So that's one thing I'd recommend looking at, is kind of what the recommended last frost date is, and then how far you need to go back to start your seedlings. So in terms of storing seeds so that you can use them next year, because you can just keep these packets, I absolutely love storing them in this binder system with these photo pockets, and you can buy these off of Amazon, or I believe at Walmart even, and organize all your seeds by type in one in each just little photo pocket, and you can put tabs in here. You could organize it by type. I have mine by type. Those are all the peppers, etc. Or you could organize it by when you need to plant it up, things like that. But this works so well, and I highly recommend it for keeping everything very organized. The other thing that I went ahead and did before starting today's seeds is I kind of wrote down when I need to plant seeds by. So today is when I kind of decided I'm going to be planting up all of my peppers and tomatoes, even though tomatoes could have been planted a little bit later. And I kind of also wrote down all of the ones that I wanted in my garden this year, how many plants I wanted out of them. And then, so say for my Roma tomatoes, I would love to have, or my San Marzano, I would love to have 10 tomato plants. So I'm going to actually start 15. So I always give myself a few extra cells that I'm going to plant up, just in case some of them die or don't make it. You always want to plant a few extra. But I already went ahead and made my list of how many of all of the varieties that I need or would like to have. Now that we've kind of decided what we're going to be planting, which I am going to be planting 2 types of tomatoes, these tomato big rainbows and my San Marzano tomatoes. These are excellent for canning. They're my favorite. I love them over Amish paste tomatoes. San Marzano is my favorite for like marinara sauces and stuff like that. I'll probably start some tomatillos, some red bell peppers, and I'm gonna try to start this yellow milkweed as well for hopefully some monarchs to come. And then I do have some green chili seeds that I collected last year that I think I'm gonna try as well and see if anything will come up for those. The other few random pieces of equipment that you're gonna want are some labels. These ones are really nice. I'll link them down in my description box. They're a plastic, you could reuse them. I'm going to be writing what is on them. You really wanna make sure you're labeling your seedlings because it's very frustrating to not know what you're growing. But you could use something like popsicle sticks. You just essentially wanna make sure whatever you're using isn't going to disintegrate when you water it. And then I'm gonna just use a little skewer to kind of dig my holes, but you don't even need that. And then my Sharpie to label. Now let's talk about containers for starting your seedlings. This is what I would recommend personally investing in, but it's not that much money. I say investing because you're gonna be able to reuse it every year, but I think this whole tray was probably less than $7 to put together. I have this humidity dome that I got from a horticulture store. Some nurseries will probably sell them. They have little vents on the top, which is awesome. And then this is a seed starting tray with cells. And I believe there are 72 in this one. This one's a little bit heavier duty than say a few of the ones that they sell at Walmart. And then I like to have a closed tray. So by that, there are no holes in the bottom of this tray. And that's what I would prefer, and I'll tell you why. I like to have my seeds starting in these cells, and then I can put them in this tray. And then when I water, I can actually water from the bottom, and the plants can soak up their water from the bottom into the soil, and it doesn't mess with the seedlings on top, as opposed to pouring water on top of them. And then once they've kind of soaked up everything, you can remove it and dump out the excess. So that's why I would recommend that. You do not need to have this set up. You could be using recycled containers, toilet paper rolls. I've seen people use eggshells, different things like that. I personally like this because it's much less work than folding up little toilet paper rolls into cells. And I have a large enough garden that this works really nicely. I have never tried soil blocking, but I know a lot of people also like that, but that's a whole nother process. But I would recommend getting a few of these. You can reuse them every year and they work really well. And then once you kind of have your seeds started, you can put your humidity dome on top, and it's just kind of a complete unit. And then once your seedlings get big enough, you can transplant them into larger pots. So I'm going to first wet my soil, and I personally think this is a very important step to wet your soil first, because if you try to water afterwards, after you've already planted your seedlings, then it's going to cause a lot of, like, if you tried to water your seedlings after you have already planted them in your dry soil, not only is your soil going to compact and then make it a little bit more challenging, but it might also shift your seeds around, and then that's not great. So you just want to have kind of some wet soil, and I probably added a little bit too much water, but that's fine. I'll just squeeze it out. And then what we're going to kind of do is fill up these cells. So once you have your cells pretty much filled up the first time, what I kind of like to do is just go in with 2 fingers into each cell and kind of lightly press it down. You just kind of want to make sure that the soil is compact, so when you do water, there's not like massive air pockets that it collapses back onto itself in or anything like that. So it doesn't have to, you don't want it to be like a solid block, but just, you know, get rid of the majority of the pockets that are in there. And then once everything's kind of pressed down, I'm going to go back in with a little bit more soil and just kind of top it off. So in terms of type of soil that you will want to use for starting your seeds inside, if you're a beginner, I would really recommend just going and buying a bag of the seed starting mix that they sell at any nursery or like Walmart, Lowe's, those types of places will have just a very basic seed starting mix. You want to make sure that your seed starting mix has good drainage and is not too heavy, and also doesn't have a lot of compost that can fry the seedlings. You do not need to fertilize seedlings. In fact, if you do, you will most likely burn them and they will die because they're just so little and don't need that many nutrients yet. Most of their nutrients are going to come from the seed itself to kind of kickstart them. And then once they kind of get a little bit bigger, then you can kind of move them into a little bit more organic mix, and they're going to like that more. But you kind of want to wait until they're a fairly decent size before you transfer them into something that's going to be more organic, have a lot more nutrients in it, simply because they won't need that many nutrients, and you don't want to kind of shock them and burn them in the process. So I would personally recommend just going and buying one of those seed starting mixes. You can look up how to make your own if you're more interested in that route, but if you're trying to just kind of have a seamless seed starting process, that's going to be kind of your friend. Now that we have some soil in our cells, I'm going to make a few of my labels, and we're gonna kind of go over planting. I'm going to start with my San Marzano first, just because I don't know how many of these I have left. But I'm gonna pour them out. These are not very big. On the back of the package, there should be a seed depth, 1/8 of an inch. Most seeds will kind of have a recommendation on how deep to plant them. Tomato seeds but kind of as a general rule of thumb, you kind of only plant as deep as the seed is. So you'll put the seed on there, and then there'll be kind of the width of the seed on top of it, which in this case would probably be about 1/8 of an inch, if not even less. So I'm going to go for 1 seed per cell. I have a few more here than I thought I did, but that's great because I want to plant more of these. So I'm going to put my label in, and then taking my skewer, I'm just going to dig kind of a small little hole, 1/8 of an inch down or so. And just taking clean hand, I'm gonna kind of pop 1 seed into each of those holes. And then all I'm going to do with these is kind of push some of that soil back down on top. And then I'm going to continue this for the rest of the tray. Once you have your seeds covered back up with the soil, I just take a little spray bottle with water and gently mist the top of each cell. Misting it will allow some of the moisture to be on the top without moving the seed around. So the rest of the soil is already wet. We already wet it all down, but this will just allow for kind of a boost in germination and humidity. Okay, so now I have all of my seeds started up. We have the San Marzano, the big rainbow, the milkweed, red bell pepper, green chili pepper, and tomatillo. And that is about it. Once you have them all kind of started, I like to, like I said, spray it down with this mister. And then I'm going to pop my humidity dome on, and then we're going to go put it in some light. I put my seedlings on this grow shelf under this grow light. This is from Gardner Supply Company. I don't necessarily recommend that you go out and get this light. It is a very expensive light that I have because I have a very large succulent hobby as well, and I keep them under this. But I do recommend getting a bar grow light, and I will include a very cheapish one down in the description box below. It's on Amazon. It's great because it will fully extend your seed starting tray, where as compared to just a light bulb, there might not be even distribution of the light. And so I like having the bars because I just feel like it starts seeds a lot better. So I'm going to leave my humidity dome on here under this grow light. And you really don't even need a grow light if you have a good window to put a seed starting tray next to, preferably morning light. However, I do not have great seed starting windows, and so I have my grow light. So here is an update on the seeds. We have lots of seeds coming up. They look pretty decent. I will probably make sure to either open this dome up now that the tomatoes are kind of all up. I still have some seeds that are not quite up yet. Some of the peppers still haven't come up and a few of the milkweeds. So I'd love to kind of keep this up for them. I'm not really surprised that my green chilies haven't come up yet. I wasn't hopeful on those seeds anyway. So I will probably be transplanting these guys up into bigger containers soon.